In a small town nestled between rolling hills and quiet rivers, there lived a woman named Alara. She had always been strong, not just in body, but in spirit. From an early age, she was taught that strength was everything. Her father, a skilled blacksmith, had instilled in her the idea that to survive in this world, one must be like steel, unyielding, unbreakable. And so Ilara grew up learning to shoulder burdens, whether physical or emotional, without ever showing signs of wear. But strength, as she would come to realize, was a double-edged sword. The townspeople admired her for her resilience. She was the one they turned to when times were hard, the one who helped rebuild after storms, the one who carried the weight of their expectations on her shoulders. Her father's legacy, the blacksmith's fire, burned in her veins, and yet, despite all her strength, there were moments when Alara felt utterly alone. Her heart had been hardened by years of unspoken pain. Her mother had died when she was young, and her father had buried himself in his work, leaving Alara to grow up too quickly. She learned to fend for herself and protect others, but in doing so, she closed herself off from the very connections that could have healed her. One evening, after a long day of labor in the forge, Ilara sat by the river, watching the moonlight dance across the water. The weight of her own life, her own silence, pressed on her chest like an unrelenting tide. The muscles in her arms, though strong, ached with exhaustion, not from the work, but from the years of carrying burdens she had never been allowed to put down. "I may be stronger," she whispered into the night, the words floating out into the cool air, "but I don't deserve the pain." The words hung there, fragile and raw, as if they had been locked away for far too long. It was the first time she had admitted it to herself. It was then that a figure appeared beside her, a gentle silhouette against the starry sky. It was Fen, a childhood friend who had always been there, though she had pushed him away time and time again. He knelt beside her, his eyes soft and understanding. "You don't have to carry it all alone," Fen said quietly, his voice a balm for her aching heart. Ilara shook her head, unable to find the words. She had built walls so high, so impenetrable, that even now, when she longed to let them fall, she didn't know how. "Maybe you're right," she said after a long pause, her voice breaking. "But I don't know how to stop being strong." Fen smiled gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to stop being strong, Alara. Strength isn't just about carrying burdens. It's also about knowing when to let go, when to lean on others, and when to heal." Tears welled in her eyes as she realized the truth in his words. Strength, in its truest form, wasn't about enduring pain without end. It was about finding the courage to ask for help when it was needed, to allow yourself the grace of healing, and to recognize that you too deserve peace. That night, for the first time in years, Alara allowed herself to cry. She wept not just for the weight she had carried, but for the years she had spent thinking that her strength had to come at the cost of her own well-being. And in Fen's quiet presence, she realized that true strength wasn't about bearing everything alone. It was about knowing when to share the load, to trust in others, and to let go of the pain that had long defined her. As the river flowed silently beside them, Ilara felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. She wasn't just stronger now, she was also free.